Hi, I'm Old James. Today is 11 August 2016. It is also the birth date of a man who has had a most profound and extreme influence on me, my thinking, my life, in the last quarter of my life. The man I speak of is Robert Green Ingersoll, born 11 August 1833, died 20 July 1899. Mr. Ingersoll is, in my opinion and by the research that I've done, the greatest orator this nation has ever produced. And one of its top three greatest thinkers. Mr. Ingersoll was a Republican in the grandest tradition of Abraham Lincoln. He was a champion and warhorse for extremely progressive ideas in his time and in ours. Real liberty and equality for children, for women, for African Americans. But in his time, he was best known for his stance against organized religion, Christianity in particular, and specifically the dogma surrounding the idea of hell and eternal punishment. He carried the banner of free thought and raised it high and led the free thought movement. And in recognition and celebration of his birthday today, I wanted to take a few minutes and share some Robert Green Ingersoll with you. In 1896, Robert Green Ingersoll gave a lecture entitled "Why I Am Agnostic." Among other things, he said, "My attention was turned to other religions, to the sacred books, the creeds and ceremonies of other lands, of India, Egypt, Assyria, Persia, of the dead and dying nations. I concluded that all religions had the same foundation, a belief in the supernatural, a power above nature that men could influence by worship, by sacrifice, and prayer. I found that all religions rested on a mistaken conception of nature, and that the religion of a people was the science of that people. That is to say, their explanation of the world, of life and death, of origin and destiny. I concluded that all religions had substantially the same origin, and that in fact there never has been but one religion in the world. The twigs and leaves may differ, but the trunk is the same. Now, it seems possible to me that the first organized ceremonial religion was the worship of the sun. The sun was the sky father, the all-seeing, the source of life, the fireside of the world. The sun was regarded as a god who fought the darkness, the power of evil, the enemy of man. Apollo was the sun god who fought and conquered the serpent of night. Baldur was a sun god. He was in love with the dawn, a maiden. Krishna was a sun god. At his birth, the Ganges was thrilled from its source to the sea, and all the trees, the dead as well as the living, burst into leaf and bud and flower. Hercules was a sun god, and so was Samson, whose strength was in his hair, that is to say, in his beams. He was shorn of his strength by Delilah, the shadow, the darkness. Osiris, Bacchus, and Mithra. Hermes, Buddha, and Quetzalcoatl. Prometheus, Zoroaster, and Perseus. Kedon, Lao Tse, Fohi, Horus, and Ramses. All sun gods. All of these gods had gods for fathers, and their mothers were virgins. The births of nearly all were announced by celestial music, and voices declared that a blessing had come to the poor world. All of these gods were born in humble places, in caves, under trees, in common inns, and tyrants sought to kill them all when they were babes. All of these sun gods were born at the winter solstice on Christmas. Nearly all were worshipped by wise men. All of them fasted for 40 days. All of them taught in parables. All of them wrought miracles. All met with a violent death, and all rose from the dead. The history of these gods is the exact history of Christ. This is not a coincidence. This is not an accident. Christ was a sun god. Christ was a new name for an old biography, a survival, the last of the sun gods. Christ was not a man, but a myth, not a life, but a legend. I found that we had not only borrowed our Christ, but that all our sacraments, symbols, and ceremonies were legacies that we received from the buried past. There is nothing original in Christianity. The cross was a symbol thousands of years before our era. It was a symbol of life, of immortality, of the god Agni. It was chiseled upon tombs many ages before a line of the so-called Holy Bible was written. Baptism is far older than Christianity, than Judaism. The Hindus, Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans all had holy water long before a Catholic ever lived. The Eucharist was borrowed from the pagans. Ceres was the goddess of the fields, Bacchus of the vine. At the harvest festival, they made cakes of wheat and said, "This is the flesh of the goddess." They drank the wine and cried, "This is the blood of our God." The Egyptians had a trinity. They worshipped Osiris, Isis, and Horus thousands of years before the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost were known. The tree of life grew in India, in China, and among the Aztecs. Long before the Garden of Eden was ever planted, long before the so-called Holy Bible was known, other nations had their sacred books. The dogmas of the fall of man, the atonement and salvation by faith, are far older than the Christian religion. In the so-called blessed gospel, in the so-called divine scheme, there is nothing new. There is nothing original. It is all old. It is all borrowed, pieced, and patched. When I knew this, then I concluded that all religions had been naturally produced, and that all were variations, modifications of one. Then I felt that I knew that all were the work of man.